Somewhere in northern Siberia, a family is warm tonight. Outside their shelter, the temperature is minus 50 degrees Celsius. The wind is moving across open tundra with nothing to slow it. No trees, no hills, no structure of any kind between here and the horizon. Frostbite arrives in minutes on exposed skin. The ground has been frozen for so long, it has its own name: permafrost. It does not thaw, it does not yield, it has not changed in thousands of years. And still, inside, a family is warm. The Nenets of Siberia and the Sámi of northern Scandinavia have survived here not for generations, but for millennia, in a landscape that produces no timber, no firewood, and no obvious answer to the most basic human question: how do you stay alive when the environment is actively trying to kill you? The answer they arrived at is not what you would expect. It is not brute endurance. It is not luck or faith or a tolerance for suffering that other peoples simply lack. It is a system, precise, interlocking, and so completely adapted to this specific place that it could not have been invented anywhere else on Earth. A system built almost entirely from one animal. How that system works, and why removing a single piece of it means death, is what this film is about. Above the Arctic Circle, the problem is not simply cold, it is the absence of everything needed to fight it. The tree line ends where the tundra begins. What grows here is not forest, but scrub, dwarf birch and Arctic willow that spread horizontally across the ground, rarely higher than a knee, branches no thicker than a finger. There is no wood to build with, no logs for cabins, no beams for frames, no fuel for fires that could burn through the winter. The cold itself is relentless. Temperatures drop below minus 50 degrees Celsius. At minus 30 degrees Celsius, metal burns skin on contact. At minus 40 degrees Celsius, exhaled breath freezes mid-air into ice crystals that locals call the whisper of the stars. But temperature alone does not tell the full story. The wind does. The tundra is flat and exposed. There are no hills to shelter behind, no valleys to retreat into. Wind moves unobstructed across hundreds of miles, and it transforms cold into something far more lethal. A minus 30 degrees Celsius day with wind feels like minus 50 degrees Celsius. Heat is stripped from any surface faster than the body can generate it. Flesh freezes. Blood retreats from extremities. Without protection, hypothermia begins within minutes. Then there is darkness. Winter brings polar night, weeks or months when the sun does not rise. The landscape exists in permanent twilight or full dark, lit only by stars, moon, and the occasional surge of aurora. There is no solar warmth, no light to navigate by, no psychological relief from the endless black, and there is moisture. It seems contradictory in a frozen desert, but moisture is one of the greatest killers here. The air is dry, yes, but human bodies are not. Every breath releases water vapor. Sweat forms during work. This moisture does not evaporate in extreme cold. It freezes. Perspiration freezes against skin inside clothing. Breath condenses and freezes on fabric, on fur, on anything it touches. Ice accumulates. It destroys insulation. It adds weight. It conducts cold directly to the body. Managing moisture is as critical as managing heat. Fail at either, and you die. The equation is impossible by temperate logic. You need fire, but there is no fuel. You need shelter, but there is no material. You need to stay dry, but your own body betray you. The environment offers nothing except cold, wind, and space. This is where the Nenets and Sámi begin. Not with abundance, but with absence. Not by overpowering nature, but by understanding it so completely that survival becomes possible. They do not fight the Arctic, they inhabit it. Every solution they developed starts from a single principle. Use what exists, because nothing else will. What exists is reindeer, skin, knowledge, and motion. From these, they built a system that has endured for millennia in a place that should not sustain human life. The system is not simple. It is not primitive. It is sophisticated, interdependent, and absolute. And it begins with shelter. The chum stands alone on the tundra, a dark cone against white infinity. It is not a tent in any familiar sense. It is a thermal engine, a moisture management system, and a portable fortress compressed into a structure that can be dismantled in an hour and carried on sledges across frozen ground. The Nenets chum and the Sámi lavu are variations of the same principle. Conical shelters made from reindeer hides stretched over wooden poles, designed not to create comfort, but to sustain life where fuel is almost non-existent. The shape is not accidental. The cone sheds wind and snow without accumulation. A flat roof would collapse under weight. Vertical walls would catch wind like a sail. The cone distributes force evenly across its surface, allowing storms to slide past rather than penetrate. Heat rises naturally to the apex, where a smoke hole vents moisture and exhaust while maintaining a draft for the fire below. Geometry alone solves multiple problems simultaneously. The covering is where sophistication deepens. 50 to 70 reindeer hides are sewn together into a single sheet, then wrapped around the pole frame. Each hide is selected for specific properties. Reindeer hair is hollow. Under magnification, each strand reveals an interior void filled with air. This is natural insulation, the same principle modern synthetic fabrics attempt to replicate. Trapped air does not conduct heat. The hide becomes a barrier not because it is thick, but because it is full of microscopic dead air pockets. The hides are layered when possible. An outer layer with hair facing outward repels wind and snow. An inner layer with hair facing inward creates a second insulation boundary. Between them, a gap of still air forms. This is the core principle. Dead air insulates. Compression destroys warmth. The tent is engineered to maintain air gaps under its own structure. Inside, the volume is small, 15 to 20 feet across at the base, tapering upward. Small volume is strategic. Heating a large space requires fuel that does not exist. A small space can be warmed with almost nothing. The stove is a metal box no larger than a suitcase, introduced in recent centuries, but preceding it were stone hearths, following the same logic. The fuel is not wood. There is no wood. What burns is what the landscape provides. Dried reindeer dung, collected and stored, which smolders slowly like compressed peat. Dwarf birch roots, dug from the frozen ground, their density greater than the thin branches above. Driftwood, carried by rivers from distant forests, gathered obsessively during summer and cached for winter. Fat rendered from reindeer, burned in shallow stone lamps for light and supplemental heat. The fire is never large. It does not roar. It barely flickers. The goal is not to banish cold, but to raise the interior temperature above freezing while consuming minimal fuel. At floor level, the air might hover near zero. At sleeping height, elevated on platforms of birch branches covered with hides, it might reach 5 or 10 degrees Celsius. This is not warm, but it is survivable. Temperature control is secondary to moisture control. This is what separates functional shelter from death trap. Human bodies generate water vapor constantly. Breath condenses. Cooking releases steam. Without venting, this moisture would condense on the interior walls and freeze into an ice layer that grows thicker each day. Ice destroys the air gaps in the hide insulation. It adds weight that can collapse the structure. It turns the shelter into a freezer. The smoke hole solves this. It is not merely an exhaust port. It is a deliberate thermal chimney. Warm, moisture-laden air rises and escapes. Cold, dry air enters at ground level through the door flap and through deliberate gaps at the tent's base. The tent breathes. Moisture never accumulates. The constant airflow feels like a draft. But that draft is what prevents the shelter from becoming uninhabitable. Fuel management determines survival duration. A family might have enough cached fuel for continuous burning during the coldest months, but only if used with absolute efficiency. The stove is never fed more than necessary. It is tended constantly. Flames are kept small. Heat is captured, not wasted. When the family sleeps, the fire is damped to coals. Morning brings the cold seeping back, but also another day of fuel saved. This is not warmth as temperate peoples understand it. It is thermal equilibrium, barely tilted in favor of life. The tent does not fight the minus 50 degrees Celsius outside. It creates a pocket where minus 50 degrees Celsius becomes zero, where zero becomes tolerable when combined with clothing and body heat. The structure is not a house. It is a microclimate maintenance device, tuned over millennia to extract maximum survival from minimum resources. The entire shelter weighs what a family can transport. Hides roll into bundles. Poles, precious and irreplaceable in treeless zones, are lashed to sledges. The hearthstones, if used, are left behind or carried only if small. Within an hour of decision, the camp ceases to exist. The family moves. The tent moves with them. Survival is not about place, it is about system. And the system is always in motion. The tent creates a microclimate. Clothing creates a second one, worn directly against the skin. Arctic clothing is not insulation in the way temperate climates understand it. It is a life support system, a wearable architecture of air gaps and moisture channels that maintains a survivable boundary between human flesh and an atmosphere that would kill exposed skin in minutes. The Nenets and the Sámi Gakti are not garments. They are engineered thermal shells. The logic is counterintuitive. The innermost layer is reindeer fur worn with hair facing inward, directly against the body. This seems wrong. Fur against skin should trap sweat, should soak and freeze. But the inner layer is cut loose. Air circulates between flesh and hide. The fur does not cling. It creates a warm air pocket that absorbs minimal moisture while establishing the first thermal boundary. Heat radiates from skin into this space and stays there, trapped. The outer layer reverses the fur direction. Hair faces outward. This is the primary wind barrier, the shield against convective heat loss that makes minus 30 degrees Celsius feel like minus 50 degrees Celsius. The outer fur is taken from reindeer slaughtered in autumn or winter, when their coats have thickened for survival. Each hair is hollow. Thousands of microscopic air tubes stand between the wearer's body and the wind. The air inside those hairs does not move. Dead air does not conduct cold. Between the two layers, another gap. The Milica is designed as a pullover with no front opening, a continuous envelope that wraps the torso, arms, and head in unbroken insulation. Built-in mittens extend from the sleeves. A hood surrounds the face, edged with wolverine or wolf fur whose guard hairs do not collect frost from breath. The entire garment functions as a single unit. There are no zippers, no buttons, no gaps where heat escapes. The key is not thickness, it is air. Compressed insulation is worthless insulation. Arctic peoples know this through generations of frozen trial. Sitting directly on ice or frozen ground, compresses the fur beneath, collapses the air spaces, and allows cold to conduct straight through to flesh. This is why they sit on additional hides, on wooden boards, on anything that preserves the air layer. Standing is safer than sitting. Motion is safer than stillness. Breath presents a specific engineering problem. Exhaled air carries moisture and heat. In extreme cold, this moisture freezes instantly on contact with fabric or skin. Ice builds up around the face, on hood edges, across any surface the breath touches. The wolverine fur ruff solves this. Its long guard hairs create turbulence in exhaled air, dispersing the moisture before it can freeze in a solid mass. The breath escapes, but the ice does not accumulate where it would destroy the hood's seal or conduct cold to the face. Footwear is where the system becomes most complex. Boots must insulate against ground cold while managing the constant moisture produced by feet, the body's highest sweat producers. The solution is layered. An inner sock of soft calf skin or hare fur, hair facing inward. An outer boot of reindeer leg skin, hair facing outward. Between them, dried sedge grass. The grass is not permanent insulation. It is a daily cycle moisture sink. Feet sweat even in extreme cold. The grass absorbs this moisture during the day's activity. Each evening, the grass is removed and spread near the fire to dry. New or dried grass is inserted before sleep. Morning brings the same ritual. The grass is replaced again. This constant rotation prevents moisture from freezing inside the boot, which would create ice that conducts cold and leads to frostbite. The grass system is labor-intensive, repetitive, and absolutely non-negotiable. Hands face an impossible trade-off. Mittens preserve warmth by keeping fingers together, sharing heat. Gloves provide dexterity, but isolate each finger, multiplying heat loss. Work in the Arctic demands dexterity. Harnesses must be adjusted. Knots must be tied. Tools must be handled. The solution is not compromise. It is exposure management. Hands work bare for brief intervals. Mittens hang on cords around the neck, instantly accessible. Skin touches metal, wood, rope for seconds or minutes, never longer. Cold tolerance increases through constant exposure. But this is not immunity. It is calibrated risk. Every person knows exactly how long their hands can remain exposed before numbness begins, before frostbite threatens. The knowledge is learned young and updated constantly. Miscalculation costs fingers. Different reindeer hides serve different purposes. Leg skins, dense and durable, become boots and outer mittens that contact abrasive snow and ice. Back skins, large and uniform, form the main body of coats. Calf and fawn skins, softest and lightest, are reserved for inner layers and infant clothing. Head and neck skins reinforce high-wear areas. Nothing is random. Every hide is selected for properties matched to function. The clothing system is not something worn. It is a portable shelter layered over the body's own heat production. The body generates warmth. The inner fur layer traps it. The outer fur layer shields it. The air gaps preserve it. Moisture is managed, vented, absorbed, and dried in deliberate cycles. The result is not comfort. It is survival measured in degrees above freezing, in hours before frostbite, in the difference between functional and frozen. Remove any element and the system fails. Wear the fur backward and wind penetrates. Compress the layers and cold conducts through. Allow moisture to accumulate and ice destroys insulation. The clothing is not adaptive. It is absolute. It was developed over thousands of winters, each failure marked by death, each success encoded into practice and passed forward. The Arctic allows no margin for error. The clothing reflects that. It is not fashion. It is engineering refined until nothing remains but what works. The reindeer are not livestock. They are the reason human life is possible here at all. A reindeer maintains body temperature near 38 degrees Celsius, even when the air drops to minus 50 degrees Celsius. One animal is a furnace. A herd of 500 is a thermal zone that radiates measurable warmth into the surrounding air. When the herd beds down for the night, the snow beneath them melts slightly, then refreezes into a compacted layer. The collective body heat of hundreds of animals raises the ambient temperature within and downwind of the herd by several degrees. This is not metaphor, it is measurable physics. Nenets and Sámi camps are positioned strategically near, but not within, the resting herd. Too close and the animals are disturbed. Too far and the thermal benefit is lost. The distance is calibrated from experience. Downwind of 1,000 reindeer, the wind chill drops. The air is fractionally warmer. In an environment where every degree matters, this fraction is survival. The herd also functions as a living windbreak. Reindeer instinctively cluster during storms, bodies pressed together, heads lowered. The mass blocks wind. Camps placed on the leeward side experience reduced wind speeds, which means reduced convective heat loss, which means less fuel burned to maintain tent temperature. The reindeer do not provide this service intentionally. They are simply surviving. But their survival strategy benefits the humans who move with them. Reindeer fur is unlike any other cold weather material. Each guard hair is hollow, filled with air that does not circulate. Under magnification, the hair reveals a structure like a microscopic straw, sealed at both ends. Thousands of these tubes create insulation superior to solid fibers. This is why reindeer hides, not bear or wolf or seal, form the basis of Arctic clothing and shelter. The animal evolved the solution. Humans adopted it. The relationship is symbiotic, not domesticated in the way Southern cultures understand domestication. Reindeer are not penned. They are not fed by human hands. They migrate following lichen growth beneath the snow, and humans follow them. But the migration is semi-directed. Herders know traditional routes, know which valleys hold lichen in winter, know when to push the herd toward summer grazing. The reindeer provide direction. Humans provide protection from wolves and strategic guidance toward resources. This movement prevents resource collapse. Staying in one location would exhaust fuel sources within weeks. Dwarf birch and willow would be harvested. Driftwood caches would empty. Lichen would be overgrazed, and reindeer would starve. Migration solves this. The herd moves to fresh grazing. Humans move to new fuel-gathering zones. Winter camps are positioned in river valleys where driftwood accumulates. Summer camps spread across open tundra. The entire system rotates through the landscape, never depleting any single area. Every part of the reindeer supports human survival. Meat is primary, but in extreme cold, it requires no preservation. A slaughtered reindeer at minus 40 degrees Celsius flash freezes within hours. The meat remains edible for months. Stroganina, thin-sliced frozen meat or fish, is not cuisine. It is storage technology that requires no fuel, no salt, no container. Fat provides concentrated calories and burns in stone lamps when other fuel is unavailable. Bone marrow, extracted and consumed, offers nutrients absent from frozen muscle tissue. Sinew, stripped and dried, becomes thread stronger than plant fiber and more cold-resistant. Sinew does not become brittle in extreme temperatures the way vegetal cordage does. Hides become clothing, shelter, straps, bags. Antlers become tools, handles, and trade goods. Bones are shaped into needles, scrapers, and in desperate times, fuel. Blood is consumed immediately after slaughter. It does not freeze well and spoils quickly, even in cold. Fresh blood provides iron and salt, nutrients that stored meat loses. Organs, liver, kidneys, heart, are eaten first for the same reason. What can be frozen is frozen. What cannot is consumed within days. Nothing is wasted because waste is death deferred. The partnership runs deeper than material extraction. Reindeer crater through snow to reach lichen, creating trails and exposing ground. Humans use these trails for travel and hunting access. Reindeer behavior signals weather changes. When the herd grows restless, a storm approaches. When they refuse to move, ice conditions ahead are unstable. Herders read the animals the way sailors read the sea. The spiritual dimension exists, but it is inseparable from pragmatic survival. Rituals around slaughter express gratitude, but they also enforce restraint. Overharvest destroys the herd. Gratitude practices and spiritual prohibitions prevent overharvest. Whether these beliefs are literal or metaphorical is less important than their function. They sustain the herd, which sustains the humans. The culture encodes survival logic into every practice, sacred and mundane alike. Without reindeer, none of this works. The tent cannot be built without hides. Clothing cannot insulate without fur. Migration cannot happen without transport animals pulling sledges. Food cannot be secured without the herd. Humans could not survive the Arctic tundra alone. Reindeer, by existing and being understood completely, make survival possible. The relationship is not domination. It is codependence refined across millennia into a system where neither species thrives without the other.